Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another episode of Little Modular. Today I will review this super fun and multifunctional logic module by Mystic Circuits called Anna. It can really expand palette of your sounds and inject some life into any patch. Even the most boring sounds can come alive with it. It works with CVs, with audio. You can cross-modulate audio and CVs and do all sorts of things, because this module is all about intersections, as it is stated in the manual, in cross-modulating the inputs and getting more different variations out of simple signals. Because it can process variable analog signals and output variable analog outputs. And it can get simultaneously different operations from one of those 6 or all of them outputs, from one signal or 2 signals, which you also process with those 2 knobs. This module is divided in 2 sections. We have basically 2 channels, and each of the channels has 2 inputs. On the left we have channel number 1, and it has 2 inputs right here, input 1 and some input. And we have the exact same thing for the second channel, input 2 and sum 2. Each of those channels has its dedicated knob, which does different things depending on how you patch the inputs. So this knob controls channel number 1 and this knob controls channel number 2. And this is how it works. If there's nothing patched into either of those inputs, the knob for the corresponding input acts as a simple offset. So what I have here is a simple patch consisting of an audio source, which is Bang oscillator by Livestock. Bang goes to filter 8 by Euranalog, and I'm controlling the filter frequency with output from the max. I will explain what it means in a second, but just to show you how the simple offset works. So I'm opening the filter with this simple offset, okay? Because there's nothing connected here. Now what I can do is I can connect some modulation signal. For instance, I can connect LFO to input number 1. And in this case, we are changing the behavior of this knob. Now, at the noon, it will almost be at the 0, so it won't do anything to the signal. But if I will turn it clockwise, it will introduce a gain up to 2 times strength of the signal. If we go the other way, we are doing the same thing, but we are inverting the signal. Now, if we connect the same signal to the sum, again it will behave as an offset, but this time it will add a positive voltage, and then if you turn it counterclockwise, it will add a negative one. Now we also have another scenario if we connect 2 different modulation sources. In my case, it is going to be another LFO, which is clocked differently from my quad LFO by Modcon. Now in this case, the signal connected to input number 1 will be processed by the attenuverter, okay, and then it will be added to the second input, to the sum input at its original level. So we can get, as you can hear, different complicated polyrhythmical or polymetrical, I'm not sure, but well, wicked waveforms. Alright, so we can vary this knob, but also varying the speed on the LFO, of course, will yield different results. And of course, you can connect different CVs in here, not only LFOs. You can connect some envelopes in here, even audio, to experiment with some really super crazy waveforms, which I will show you in a second. And that's how the input section works. The behavior of the second channel combined with the second knob is exactly the same. Now let's talk about outputs. We have 6 different operations available here. The first one is a minimum. It calculates the minimum from 2 signals connected to in 1 and in 2. Then we have the maximum, which calculates maximum values from 2 signals connected to the inputs. Then we have a unique bipolar VCA, which I'll show you in a second. Magnitude right here. This one calculates the absolute difference between 2 inputs. Then we have a step output. This one is interesting. It can create a stepped waves which are based on both of the inputs. And then is the last box. It's in essence a bipolar comparator that can create a 3-level square wave capable of being positive, negative, or it can be also 0. It sounds difficult and complicated, but it's not. Because as I mentioned before, it is all about connecting one signal or 2 signals and getting different permutations, different cross-modulating results from all of those 6 outputs. And it's really cool because these are all related. So you're not getting some total random stuff. So we can get semi-random results, which can be crazy, but also at the same time related to what you have inputted, which I find really useful. Now I have prepared a simple VCA patch. What I have done here is I have connected the VCA out, the third output right here, VCA. I have connected the source to input number 1, but then I have connected the triggering signal to some input, which is generated courtesy of this beautiful, slick Contour 1 module by Geranalog, which I will review soon. This is how it sounds like. As you can see, if I change the rate, it could go well into the audio rate. Then I'm getting a nice VCA, and I can control the behavior and even perform a kind of filtering on it and get different responses varying those 2 knobs. But now I can add a second signal to one of those inputs. I will choose the sum, and I can combine those 2 modulation sources, which is the envelope from Contour 1 and LFO from my Modcon. So I can trigger the VCA and influence this with the LFO and get different flavors. So as I said before, it's all about connecting different signals and processing them in different ways. Now let's take a look at some percussion uses for it. Again, LFO number 1 and 2 from my quad LFO. Then this gets mangled with the 2 knobs. And then I have the box jack connected to my hex inverter bass drum trigger input. As it is a comparator, it acts as a triggers, an extractor from CV signals. And you can get all sorts of intermodulated patterns this way, just with those 2 signals and 2 knobs. And this is how it sounds like. We are getting some semi-random patterns this way. Of course, if we change the LFO speeds, it will also influence this different patterns dramatically. So let's do that right now. One of those LFOs is faster now, and I'll change the another LFO, I'm getting yet different flavors. So it's almost like flams sometimes. Like it's not time aligned properly, but in the different scenarios, it's like a burst generator. As with all patches, remember that the slight movements yield drastically different results. Okay, now just as we did with CV signals, we can do the same thing with audio signals. I have connected the different waves from the same oscillator. In my case, it's a Rubicon. And look how many different flavors I can get. It's sort of like having different ring modulators. So by switching to different operations, you can get different new waves out of it. And of course, nothing stands in the way of patching all 4 ends. I can now, for instance, patch some more different sources in here. For instance, bank and my trusty organ accumulator, and have fun with this combination and different sources and different operations. So it's just endless fun. Now, how about performing the same patch I did a few minutes ago, the one with the step circuit triggered by the box output, but this time let's do that with the audio signal. So again, I have 2 of the oscillators connected to the inputs, and then I will add a square wave out of DPO to the box. So this will act as the trigger, and then I will connect my output from the step to my mixer and to my filter, and this is how this will sound like, hopefully. Yep, gnarly. Okay, so now I can vary those knobs in here, as well as the frequency on the Rubicon, but now I can also use this square wave that is connected from my DPO, and this will give me different results. And again, if we add those 2 different oscillators, well, let's do it in this weird kind of arrangement, we will be getting all sorts of really super nice, gnarly and crazy sounds. I can go on like that. Now I'm fiddling with the DPO square. So as you can hear, it's just absolutely insane amount of sounds, which can be really aggressive, distorted, and absolutely inspiring. Okay, so the last patch is all about distortion. What I have done here, I have connected some drum loops and some melodic loops to the input on channel number 1, and then I have connected the box output, which is the most prominent and most aggressive in my opinion, to my mixer, so we can hear for yourself how does that sound. For instance, we have this drum loop which sounds like that on its own, And this is how it sounds with Anna. Okay. Yes, please. I mean, we are talking like dozens of different destruction flavors, from subtle clipping to some really hardcore. I mean, if you are into noise, harsh, and glitch, it's as good as it gets. Oh my god. It's incredible. One of my favorite distortion modules, and I have plenty of those. This is another drum loop. It's more acoustic. That's how the unprocessed loop sounds like, and that's how it sounds through Anna. Yep. It's different, isn't it? Yeah. Oh my god. It's like... I mean, can you hear that? It's like a half-finished piece. And I'm only using one input here. And we are only exploring the box out, nothing else. I have a typical TB303 bass line. Sounds like that on its own. Let's distort it with Anna. Yep. Just as you might expect. It just sounds phenomenal. To be honest, I like it more as a distortion box than as a Logic and a CD processor. I mean, you know, if you look for the sweet spots, it sounds almost like Metasonics modules, like this crazy razor sharp distortion kind of thing that I have not found in any other module, and I find that kind of distortion in this module. So it's really super aggressive. I mean, yeah, you can hear it for yourself. Yeah, it behaves really in a similar way to those tube distortion boxes. It can choke, like it's totally overloaded. It has the same grit, but it's brighter. Incredible module for distortion. Typical electric bass. Let's go on and check out how it sounds with Anna. As expected, sounds gnarly. Yep. Now, how about a vocal distortion? I have connected my trusty SM57 to a Joranalog Receive 2 module, which has a really nice preamp built in, and I have connected output from this module to in, and again we are using only the box. Check it out how it sounds. It's like a perpetually broken radio or megaphone or off. Oh my god, like super aggressive broken transistor radio of some sort. So it's like a transmission from far away from different galaxies, and it can get really aggressive, harsh, and just clearly evil sounding. So as you can see, we are talking about 6 HP module, which can do so many things. And what I have shown you in this video is just the tip of the iceberg. So definitely give it a go, check it out. If you liked that video, if you found it interesting, please like it, please subscribe to my channel and spread the good word. Happy wiggling. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.